And welcome out to this week's Trade Masters presented by Tackle Trading. Once again, this is Coach Frank hanging out with Coach Matt, where we'll each bring a couple of trade ideas, bounce them around each other, bounce them around with our team, just to get us, beef up our midweek watch list. If you're new to the channel, welcome. It is great to have you here. Always helpful if you do the YouTube things, hit the like, hit the subscribe, all of that good stuff. And special announcement, Maddie, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We get 40 likes on this week's Trade Masters. You are going to be doing a little 2 or 3 part day trading series in our pro member coaches show. So if you want to get that going, he'll probably do it eventually anyway. But if you want him to get it going sooner rather than later, then make sure you hit that like button. Of course, we do appreciate it. Welcome out to all of our pros. And if you're not a pro yet, never a better day than today to head over to tackletraining.com, get signed up for a free 15-day trial, get access to the best trading community out there, as well as weekly traders reports, the best newsletter in the business, the aforementioned coaches show, where you maybe catch some good stuff with Coach Matt. You might see me and Greg in there a time
Oh,
or
you and
two.
Greg do a fantastic job, by the way.
Well, thank you. We
Fantastic.
have we have a good time together. We got Coach Gino always, coming up with all sorts of unique options. I mean, this is the best trading community. Been part of it for a really long time. I've known Matt for an even longer time. So give us a try. Think you'll probably find you got a good home. Maddie, with all of that said, my man, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic, Frankie. Excited to be here for Trade Masters. And the last couple of weeks, we've had quite frankly, we've had some really, really, really good picks in Trade Masters. And like you said, if you enjoy Trade Masters, you're going to love the Traders Report. You're going to love the newsletter. But just one quick thought on the coaches show next week. I am absolutely going to do a two-part series on day trading. And so if you are interested in learning how to day trade, because I know the team's going to get us those 40 likes, so I'm just going to assume we're going to be doing
That's a fair
the
assumption.
day trading class in the coaches. So if you're interested in learning how to day trade, well, guess what, guys? We just do that in our coaches show that we call a random Tuesday. That's what we do at Tackle Trading. So definitely come join us. Day trading's been awesome recently. It's been awesome recently. So hopefully we get a good crowd in the coaches show next Tuesday. But for today, excited to be here for the Trade Masters. Now, just kind of to rewind a little bit. Last week we had a couple really good picks, Frankie. You came with Etsy that never confirmed on that pullback. Just continue. Very important when you're dealing with pullbacks,
Yeah.
because I got me a pullback today here, Frankie. If pullbacks don't confirm, it's everything's null and void, no doubt about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. If it
You
can't break the previous day's high, then it ain't
have
breaking
to
anything else,
confirm.
right?
You absolutely have to confirm. There's no doubt about that. I had EA last week, one of my pullbacks, still kind of in process
Kind of
here. I
drifting.
also had Franco. Franco did absolutely fantastic. The week before, Frankie, one of yours was AXP, doing really good at this point. And then had one of my pick was Abby V, which has been an awesome,
Been real
awesome
nice.
trade.
Yeah.
And so our hope is we can rinse and repeat some quality setups here today, Frankie, and we're excited to get into it. So how do you want to start this bad boy?
Well, listen, before we dive into our setups, I'm going to give it to you because this was NVIDIA's earnings day.
Okay.
And there's a lot to digest, but just a quick recap and kind of your initial thoughts. I know you'll break it down in great detail in the Traders Lounge tomorrow, but just kind of
I
initial
will.
thoughts here.
Yeah, I'll do a deep dive on Nvidia's earnings tomorrow with the pros in the Traders Lounge in our Discord channel tomorrow. But for right now, I mean, Nvidia they came in with beats. That's what Nvidia does. They come in with beats. It's honestly one of the most accurate companies that people analyze coming into earnings. In the last 4 quarters, you're talking about a 1% beat, a 1% miss, a 3% beat. And today you got a little bit of a minor beat as well against EPS expectation. They beat on EPS, they beat on revenue, they beat on profit margins, they beat everywhere except the one that's really, really, really important, and that's the data center build out. The data center build out is basically 88% of Nvidia's profit right now. 88% of the revenue coming in this quarter
Wow.
was based on data center build out. and that had a slight miss here today. I think the data center came in at 41.1 billion. Expectation was 41.34. So I think the only thing we're really seeing is a little bit of a miss on the data center, and you're seeing some algo responses there. We're starting to get the conference call, and I haven't seen everything that Jensen has said, and that's going to be in the deep dive tomorrow in the lounge. But as of right now, like really good reports. The AI theme's intact. The AI data center build out's intact. And I'll just give you one number on that slight miss on the data center build out. By the way, data center build out for a $4 trillion company did increase by 50, what was it, 56% year over year?
Wow.
Let me say that again. A 4 trillion behemoth of a company increased revenue by 56% year over year on data center. Companies would literally kill for that type of stuff in terms of
Yeah.
the type of build out they're having. But one just we're gonna get all caught up in the short term pricing of Nvidia, no doubt about that. But one thing to keep in the back of your mind, Jensen's talking about in totality by 2030. And when I do the AI gold rush, everything I'm projecting is by 2030. Jensen came out and said they're expecting $3 to $4 trillion in global AI data center build out between now and 2030. So while we're all geeking out over that slight miss on Nvidia here today, and let me reiterate that, an extremely slight miss on the data centers. Everything else was intact, including capex spend, buyback programs, you name it. That $3 to $4 trillion gives me a lot of confidence on the long-term growth of Nvidia because I think it's
Yeah.
going to be bigger than that, quite frankly.
Wow. Yeah. It's probably a fair
But
bet.
one quick point outside of Nvidia, because you did have other companies reporting, just very quickly, Snowflake. Snowflake had a wonderful report here today, and you're seeing it on the intraday side of the
Wow.
equation here,
Yeah.
Frankie. A 30% beat against EPS expectation. And you're seeing what you do when you 30% beat against EPS expectation. Snowflake's going to gap up into known resistance tomorrow. That's going to be an important conversation as well. But with NVIDIA and Snowflake, CrowdStrike released today as well. We'll talk about those in the lounge.
Love it. I can't look at Snow's chart without thinking about Informer by the Canadian rapper Snow.
That's right, baby.
Every
That's right.
time I see it, that's exactly what I think. Well, appreciate the update there on NVIDIA, Maddie. Let's get down to business, though, my friend. And listen, I'm nothing if not a gentleman, so I'm going to give you the first crack at this thing here today. I know who you're going with your two selections, but excited to kind of have you break them down. So we start with TJX. It looks like TJ Maxx. Nice.
Yeah, I'm going with TJ Maxx for my first pick. Just pure swing trade here, Frankie. And the reason, let me just kind of verify why it's a pure swing trade conversation for me on TJ Maxx. When you're at late stage trend analysis, and I have this as late stage trend analysis in terms of going into Elliott Wave 5, you're going to see that through the trader's lens. You don't see that through really kind of anything else. If you're going to pick up from an investor perspective, you don't want to pick something up at a late stage of the current trend. You want to wait for different development, maybe even a sell-off. But in terms of that late stage trend, I really just see it through the trader's lens, that pure swing trading conversation. And TJ Maxx had a pretty decent report recently as well. This is what we call a secondary pattern after an earnings report. And when you're going into earnings, you're going to get a lot of volatility, both in terms of the in front of earnings and definitely as we get the earnings release. You see it on Snowflake, Nvidia. CrowdStrike's going to get smoked tomorrow morning. Obviously, we're going to see a gap down now on CrowdStrike. But on TJ Maxx, you had a gap up because you beat by 9% against EPS. Revenue beat by 7%, was up year over year. They also increased forward-looking guidance as well in this quarter, Frankie, up 2.5% for quarter three on EPS, and for the entire fiscal year, up about 2%. And so when you beat on EPS, you beat on revenue, you have a slight uptick on guidance. It might not be the greatest hat trick in the history of mankind, but it's still a hat trick. And so you got the gap out on strong earnings. And then what you really kind of look at is that secondary pattern. And when you deal with a gapping situation, it's very important to understand what type of gap you're dealing with, because then you can start having an expectation of what is that secondary pattern. And when you're in a late stage trend and you gap up and you kind of sell down, you're going to see that through the exhaustion lens, because your late stage trend, gap up, fill the gap channel. When you sell down after the gap up, you have an exhaustion fill. You expect that gap to fill. Now, it's not a big gap, but the gap certainly did fill. You see it over the next 4 trading sessions as the market starts slowing down. And that's exactly what you want to see in terms of a support build in a secondary pattern is you want to see it come into one of your known catalysts. In this situation, there are two very important catalysts here. The first one, I think everybody at Tackle Trading is going to know exactly what I'm anchoring against, and that's the 9 EMA. The 9 EMA being the number one momentum indicator, the number one momentum support level in the market. You kind of pivoted right there on that 9 EMA. And then when you come out to a little bit of more time frame, Frankie, you got this all-time high pricing pivot right there. That is a major pivot. The reason it's a major pivot is the pricing going into the pivot was substantial and the pricing coming out of the pivot was substantial. That puts it on the zone of major pivot analysis, and that's exactly where the pivot on the support level held here. And so you're not just talking about a 9 EMA bounce here, you're talking about the principle of polarity. And the principle of polarity is old resistance, especially major pivots, have a tendency to act as new support. They have a principle of polarity is basically support and resistance pivots are interchangeable. And so we had an old resistance pivot. Now we have a new support pivot. And the data going into it is not bad here, Frankie. You already have confirmation with the pricing over the last couple of days. So from an entry perspective, when you already have confirmation, it's a very easy conversation. This is the confirmation candle. This is your pivot candle. This is your bounce candle. That confirmation candle means you can simply go above the high of the day to get that secondary confirmation above the high of the day. That's your entry. And when you're dealing with a depth of the retracement, obviously there's going to be certain levels that you track in that retracement, but I'm not sure you're going to have the same philosophy on TJ Maxx if it breaks 135. That
Agreed.
major pivot of the past, the 9 EMA. And so it's one of those situations where if you come down to the 20 in a standardized trend with proper momentum, I would still see that through the retracement lens because of the major pivot that we're dealing with at 135 and that support level at 135. I kind of have this as a go or don't type setup, Frankie. Entry above the high, stop underneath the low from yesterday. That gets you underneath that 9 EMA. That gets you underneath the pivot, and that gets you underneath the low of this week as well. Now, from a targeting perspective, anytime you do a swing trade, you're going to want to assess 2-to-1, right? At a minimum
Yep.
standard 2-to-1 at your secondary target, 1-to-1 at your first target. And in doing so, you don't want to just make things up, right? You want to have some degree of analysis. And when you're in a trend, there's two techniques that I'm going to look at, quite frankly, especially when you're dealing with all-time highs. I'm going to look at the potential average yield, which is the average price movement between the wave counts, or I'm going to look at a Fibonacci extension. Because I got this going into Elliott Wave 5, I'm just going to look at this through the extension lens, and that will give me my secondary target. And so when I'm drawing my Fibonacci here, Elliott Wave 5 patterns have a target of the 61% level. That puts your secondary target at the tippity top of where you could expect this to go in the short term, right around the 148 level. Maybe a sniff 150 with that significant whole number at 150. But I do think that target at 148 makes a lot of sense here. And then your first target, I just think you have to target the body or the wig. So dealer's choice here. I'm targeting 148, but that first target would be either 145 or on the body at 143 and a half. Pick your poison on that. I really don't care. I'm targeting that 148 level. And so that's my first trade ideas. TJ Maxx, pure swing trade, late
Like
stage
it.
trend. Love the development on the go or don't setup.
Absolutely agree with that. I have them on my short list too, so I obviously echo your thoughts there. I definitely I wish I had something great to add. The only thing I really would add is nothing technically.
Yeah.
I like how you said dealer's choice for that first target, right? When I always call it negotiable, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I tend to like to do when 148, or I have a real target, as I say a lot, and I try to quotation marks, even if my camera's not up when I do that, is I'll just kind of look at 1-to-1, because that 1-to-1 is,
Yeah.
the low, the low hanging fruit, so to speak, but completely negotiable. Love the setup, my friend.
Awesome. Awesome. Team, what do you think of the setup on TJ Maxx? Frankie, what's your first pick?
Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna talk some Amazon here. And I do like your setup. You do have my vote. I'm gonna bring
I
my
figured
dog
I
over
was going
though.
to get your vote on that one. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm not
figured you.
surprised.
Yeah, not surprising, right?
Yeah,
So,
I
uh,
figured that was low hanging fruit for you. Yeah.
yes, that was it. That was an easy one, right? You usually get my vote. Now on Amazon, I'm thinking something specific here, right? You kind of got this little triangle, symmetrical triangle that's kind of been developing after that big gap down on earnings that, felt like the market maybe just was a little crabby with that. Now we're kind of working it back and getting this little bit of a triangle. Now you aren't at all-time highs. Unlike TJ Maxx, you are a little off. We're right around 42.50, where we're going to have that high water mark here. But I'm thinking something very specific here on Amazon. I'm not thinking about, where's my stop loss and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a broken wing butterfly
Mm.
here on Amazon, a fixed risk, good reward. I lovingly call these things cheapies because you can get involved for a very, very small amount. And so the one that I'm looking at is going to be the September 12th. So we're 16 days out. Maddie's got it built here. The 237.50, 240, 250, 245 on this. And that's going to run you right around, I'm going to call it 65 cents or
Mhm.
so as far as the cost. Now, the nice thing about these butterflies, as opposed to a TJ Maxx, where maybe I'm buying a call or buying some shares and I've got to have a stop loss, I
Yeah,
can
about
easily,
50 bucks.
so yeah, I can easily position size myself to risk on this, right? I can, well,
Mhm.
I'm willing to risk, $100. I can buy one or maybe two, right? If I'm only willing to risk $60, I can buy one. And that's what I love about them, is I'm able to do that accordingly. Now, the reason I chose this one partially was the price, right? It's a very inexpensive way to get involved with an Amazon. But also when you come out of these little triangle type of patterns, like Amazon kind of finds itself, typically you expect a burst, right? Now, if it comes to the downside, it's going to probably take my $60 or whatever I end up paying for that. And I'll just move on to something else. But if it breaks to the upside, you typically see a pretty good pop. I mean, it's in a different location, but very similar to what Tesla did in its triangle
Oh,
not
yeah.
all that long ago.
I think you know what I'm going to say after you get done talking,
Yeah,
because you like
I do.
broken wings here. You know me, I like a bi-directional
So
situation.
yeah, I know you do, and I don't think that's an unreasonable way to play it. What I like about the broken wing here, though, if you go back to the risk graph, the contract that we sold were the 240, 250, which is right at that all-time high. So is it completely outrageous to think that Amazon would struggle if it were to get to that all-time high, at least in the short term? Probably
No,
not, right? This wouldn't have to get there, by the way, to be a profitable trade.
very,
But
very normal to see development at an all-time high.
exactly. And with these broken wing butterflies, basically, as it's moving up, we start to make money, until we get into those short strikes where we start to, give some of it back, right? But if we
Mm.
were to ding right at that all-time high of 240, 250, you're looking at, a really solid risk to reward trade up in that level, right? Which is always fantastic. Is that what I should expect? Absolutely not.
You're 8 to 1 at expiration at 242, and you're basically 2 to 4 to 1 depending on time. But it's a really good trade.
It's a really good situation, right? And it probably doesn't happen, but it's always nice that it could,
No, no, I mean
right?
you
And
don't expect to max out 8 to 1 at but going into it, you know you got a good trade.
so exactly, going into it. And if this thing just goes ham and leaves the station and just runs, well, we're still going to be picking up a really nice profit up there. That's what, 175. If
Yeah,
this just goes
if the
to
thing goes ham, you're 3 to 1 on the return.
goes 3 to 1 on the return. So, I like that we can position size to risk. I don't need to put a stop loss on this, whereas I would if I were doing a more traditional spread. I have great risk to reward. If we just go 3 to 1, I'd take that any day of the week.
Yeah,
I can make some pretty decent money if we work our way up, but aren't able to get all the way to that resistance level. And maybe I get lucky and it kisses that 245, hangs out there, and it's a monster risk to reward trade. So I think when you factor in kind of where it is technically, the cost of this broken wing butterfly, and the theoretical chances of how things can play out, it's just what really stood out to me when you kind of put all of those together.
Yeah, and if for those of you watching Trade Masters for the first time, introducing tackle trading, broken wing butterflies are very popular at tackle trading. There's a lot of our traders
Yeah.
that love what we affectionately call the cheapie, right?
Yes, sir.
It's a really good way of lowering cost, and that's what you do. That's what you learn when you start learning the detail of the options market. Is you start understanding that the more you learn, the more you can lower your cost, and the more you lower your cost, the more you enhance your return, and the more you lower your risk. And
Yep.
it's a great way to go about some of these stocks that directionally I would say Amazon's a little bit challenging here directionally.
Yeah, I think that'd be
Um,
fair.
and so, you kind of have a philosophy. Well, I think it can run. I think it could run to 140, 242, and this is the best strategy I can go about doing it. I like the trade setup for a broken wing here, Frankie. If you don't mind, I know what your pick. Can I just show you how
Yeah,
I
no,
would structure it?
absolutely. Yeah.
If you're not looking at the broken wing, one of the things that I personally rather enjoy in a symmetrical triangle, because I'm very similar to you, Frankie. And you know this, and a lot of people watching know this as well. But I don't love directional trading in a triangle. I don't love it. They can be explosive volatility, right?
Yep.
That's why if they break the upper end here, Frankie, 242, running above 242 could happen. Like that's why
Yeah.
that broken wing is really good trade in my opinion, because you break this, I'd say it's getting into 242.
He's got a shot, right?
So the broken wing is a great way of looking at doing that on Amazon. One thing that I like doing here on Amazon on something like this is thinking through the lens of a strangle. And a strangle is an option trade where you're basically looking to buy, an out of the money put option, and you're looking to buy an out of the money call option. And through the out of the money call option and the out of the money put option, it's going to be a little bit more of an expensive trade. I wouldn't call a straddle or a strangle a cheapie here because you're buying
Yeah.
options on both sides of the ledger. And so it's a little bit more aggressive that way. But what that does is it creates on the strangle, it creates the U shape risk graph where you can make money as it goes down and you can make money as it goes up, right? And in a triangle situation where I don't really have an expectation technically in a triangle, um, I would say slight probability to the north side is what I would say in this triangle because of the longer term uptrend. And quite frankly, the earnings report was not bad out of Amazon. It just had a gap down situation. But I kind of like a strangle here as well. A couple months out,
Okay.
volatility is fairly low right now on Amazon. Amazon right now has 26% volatility here, Frankie, on the 16 day. Now I would go out a little bit more time, but even more time, you're dealing with 26% of volatility. Volatility has just fell off a cliff following that earnings announcement. And then after the earnings announcement kind of cleared the gap, well, there's not a lot of volatility, which allows buying those options to be a little bit cheaper as
Right.
well. Team, question for you. Do you prefer the Amazon cheapie or the TJ Maxx late stage swing trade in the go or don't situation? Let us know
Ooh.
there in chat. By the way, there's no winners or losers. We're all winners because we're here watching Trade Masters, watching Coach Frank and Coach Matt do some great things here.
Exactly. We're all winners,
We're
right?
all winners.
All winners.
All
And
winners.
we
Okay.
can yep.
Yeah.
He makes me do it all the time. I have to pick my favorite, but I only have to pick my
You
favorite,
you do have
on
to pick
paper.
your favorite right now, and I have to pick mine too.
Yeah, I can't resist the combo of Amazon. Just the between the price and the way that it's just kind of lined up technically, I just can't resist. I do like TJ Maxx. Like I said, I had him on my short list as well.
Vincent
Uh,
Strangle.
what's that?
Oh, I was just answering Vincent.
Oh, okay.
Oh, finish your thought though.
Oh no, no, whatever my thought was, it left. So you're going to get better risk to reward if you go the 9 days. I'd rather pay the little bit extra personally. Better path finders. I
I was
so
going to ask you to answer
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there's not really a wrong answer, right? Like, I mean, that's what's cool about broken wing butterflies. I mean, you could bump all those strikes up one, get it cheaper, get bigger risk to reward, right? You could bump it down,
Yeah.
pay a little bit more, and get faster,
You think
double your
you
money scenario.
structured
So
yours around the 242
I
level?
structured mine
Is that why you
around,
did
yes,
it?
that was a big part of it. Yes, that was a big, the recent swing high is just a little bit above where my first long is, right? My shorts are right at that all-time high. So that's kind of why I went there. But yeah, I mean, there's you can kind of do your own little customization with these broken wings, which is one thing that's so cool about them. I prefer getting that extra week, but I don't necessarily think it's wrong
Oh,
to
yeah,
go the
neither do
shorter
I.
term.
No,
So
again, I kind of think that's dealer's choice for people that trade butter.
exactly. That's what I love about them, right? You can just kind of keep, as
Well, you
Coach
can,
Greg says,
yeah,
massage them, right? Keep
yeah,
massaging
you
until you
can
get you like.
structure them kind of around what you personally like,
Yep. E- e-
very, very, and they have built-in risk management to them.
exactly.
Like
And
that's one of
that's
the things
not
you love about
understated, right? Not understated at all.
it. Exactly. All right, brother. All right. So I'm gonna say the team preferred Amazon. I think you got the team on the broken wing here, Frankie. I
All right.
thought beating TJ was going to be tough. That's a good pullback there in a go or don't
It is
setup.
good to
But
pull back. Yeah.
I knew the broken wing on Amazon was going to get a stiff competition here, Frankie, because it's a good it's a good broken wing butterfly.
It is in a good
And
spot, right?
ooh, there's a
It's
lot in our community that loves those cheapies. There's no
yeah,
doubt.
yeah.
Um,
I'm one of them.
what do you want to do? What do you want to do for round two
Well,
here?
well, listen, you went first round one. I'll go first round two, and I'm going to come a little bit different here. And I'm coming at you with CC. Spoiler alert, you're going to be coming up with something pretty close to this, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. I've really liked the turnaround story in the specialty chemicals in the basic material space.
I did some
Talked
deep scanning today. I saw 3 or 4 chemical companies that look pretty good.
There's quite a bit. It's kind of been something I've,
Mid tier, low
been kind
tier.
of, yeah, I've kind of
Yeah,
been
you got
banging the drum for it for a little bit now. And CC is one of those names that really stood out for a couple of reasons. One, price, right? I'm not going to be doing a broken wing butterfly on something that's $15.23, right? But I
yeah.
don't need to do that, right? If Amazon was $15, I'd just buy a whole bunch of shares and call it a day, probably, right? So very inexpensive, but also pretty decent option. So you can, go the, wimpy, Coach Mark, sell some put route. You could do covered call when you want to.
I just
Well,
love how you said you can go the wimpy Coach Mark way.
yes, well, he
Yeah,
knows, he
yeah.
knows. And I say that lovingly, right? Like I say, I'm cheap lovingly.
Just
Coach
enjoy that.
Mark
That's all.
is a wimp lovingly.
Mhm.
You got lots
He
of
knows.
ways that you can go about our friends at CC here. I love the fact that these guys on Friday, like a lot of things, they had a big day, but that big day got them a nice clean close of the 200-day moving average. And over the course of this trading week, where we kind of seen some consolidation this first half of this week, they've been hovering right above that. What that has done is, one, it's built confidence that it's going to stay above the 200, and two, maybe as importantly, it's got that 9 to catch up. We're just about to see that 9 crossing above the 200-day moving average, which, while that's not the end all be all, I'd rather it happen than not if I'm thinking about things from a
The
bullish
tighter that
perspective.
9 is going to a breakout, the better your timing is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you add the weekly chart to this,
Thank you for
which
bringing
is
the weekly.
important,
It's so sexy. Like
it's very sexy. It's very important, right? We are right underneath that 50 weekly, right? So we want to make sure that we get through that guy before we go. Ideally, this is
1552 is a 50 weekly.
yeah. So we close above that level, I would say, but at least need to get above it. And now I think ideally tomorrow and Friday look very similar to the first half of this week. And we're having this breaking through that on Monday morning. It never hurts to ask. I can't expect it, but I'm
I wouldn't hate a
absolutely
Friday close about 15 and a half
no,
either.
no. The Friday close above 50-52 would be great as well. So ideally, this is one that doesn't trigger this week and does next week, but it'll do what it wants to do, right? All I can do
You got to
is
be ready
ask
to go
for it
above 1550 when it
tomorrow.
closes,
Like
whether it's
tomorrow,
tomorrow,
yeah.
whether
Like
it's
I
the
got to be
next
ready to
day. Yeah.
go. Yeah, exactly.
As long
What's
as you don't give up the 9, it could hesitate for there for 2, 3 more days and be perfectly
exactly
fine.
and be perfectly fine. Cool thing is if we can get through that level, you go into a gigantic moving average pocket where you basically have to go into the monthly chart to find the 20 monthly at approximately $19. There's just legitimately not much in the
This
way of that.
is what we call a pocket.
That's a big moving average pocket on the weekly. And that's kind of, that secondary level on the monthly. You got
Oh,
a big
so
one. So
got
you've
that.
got
Even
lots.
that's massive
That's a
range.
massive room. I mean, that's a lot of room for this to go. So I do think for me, kind of when it comes to these reversals that are trades and not investments, because I think you can make an investment argument for CC if you wanted to, but I'm going to come at it from the trade perspective. I think you take it kind of one fight at a time. That first moving average pocket takes me up to about $19, and that's kind of my primary target. Now you can target beyond that, or you can target underneath that for your other target, right? Depending on you. But I think 19 is my real target, if you will. As far as the stop loss goes, one thing that's got really beneficial is when I was kind of prepping this trade coming into the week, my stop loss was further away than it is today. Right now, you can just go right underneath that 9 EMA. That also gets you the 200-day moving average. And so getting into that $19 level, again, we don't know what the candle looks like, assuming you're asking for the close above the 50. So it might be higher, it might be a big bar when it closes, it might be a little one, but just kind of spitballing it. That's about a 3.5 to
Hopefully it's
1
not
risk
too
to
big.
reward ratio. Yeah, hopefully it's not gigantic, right? If it is, secondary pattern,
Yeah.
we'll play. But you're going to be looking at somewhere in the general vicinity of 3.5 to 1 on the risk to reward into that first challenge, that first moving average pocket at $19. I really I like the area. I like what I'm seeing on CC. I like the catch-up story that it potentially has. So give me CC. And again, I think it's kind of dealer's choice in how you want to play it. At this price tag, I'd probably just prefer, shares, especially if I can do blocks of 100, because while I
Yeah,
wouldn't want to do it
I
immediately,
like that, Frankie. I like that a lot actually because CC is one of those names that it's not low volatility.
no.
CC is one of those names that can move a little bit.
Yeah.
And
And
what
it
that means is if you're position trading with shares here, you have the ability to
get
kind of
covered call.
offset
Yeah.
any downward movement in price by writing a covered call.
Yep. When you
So
want
like
to,
if you're
right?
getting into 18 and you're like, well, I don't know. I really like the move. I want to stick, but I don't want to hold through anything down. Well, you can come out and let's say 15 and a half. So if you're 18 and you sold the 20, it'd be a 2 point range. So let's say you just go to 17 here, bring in $30 of cash flow to
Yep.
offset that, like per contract. And honest, at 20, it would be more like, $60 per contract. So
Right.
like it's one of those situations where I do like the shares, do like the position, and I do like the ability to write a covered call. But on a setup where you're clean against resistance, like you could just go call option here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you kind of got the dealer's
Depends on what
choice,
you're
right?
buying. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I do like that. I like the setup and I like the reversal here on Keymores. Um, Frankie, my pick
you just got to
here,
delete a letter, bro.
I just got to delete one letter. That's it. And we're going to Citigroup here. And the story of Citigroup is not one that is just told on one single time frame here. Although if we were just going to look at that one single time frame, we got a
Pretty good looking
up
single time frame.
candle breakout. Like nobody's gonna scoff at a cup and handle breakout coming into a continuation pattern. This was one of those stocks, Frankie, that you and I, after the first week of earnings, was really key on this one.
Yep.
And it gave us, like, we had it on our reports here, we had it on our reports there. And it's most likely, as long as it doesn't run, it's probably going to be on the reports this weekend, if I had to say. I think Citigroup is one of the better in the financial space right now from a pure technical perspective. And the financial space is breaking out of its own neutrality right now. Citi's in front of it, finance is breaking out. And if the market is right, if the market's right on rate cuts coming in September, that's going to do nothing but help the banks.
Yep.
And so I do think you're seeing a little bit of love on the banks. Mike Lee came out, I think it was yesterday, and said the AI trade is the most dominant trade in the market. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, Mike. Like, tell us something.
What, were you
Tell us
hanging out at
something we
tackle
don't know.
trading 2 years ago, bro?
I'm like, welcome to tackle trading in March of 23. Love that. Um, but but what he said next, I thought really did catch my eye because the AI trade being the most dominant trade in the market is like 2 + 2 = 4
Yeah.
and stuff. Of course it is. But he also said, but I think finance outperforms it over the next year. given the fact that you got a pretty good fundamental argument on finance right now. You got a good valuation argument on finance right now. And so that just kind of caught my mind. Now, I could care less about Citi's valuation. I'm not looking at investing here. I'm just looking at a position trade is what I'm looking at here, Frankie. And so I like the cup and handle on the daily chart. You are officially breaking out of that cup and handle right this very second. You are closing above that level. And anytime you close above the cup and handle or any continuation pattern, that's an official breakout. And so you would be looking at getting in above that high. Whatever the confirmation candle is, you're looking at getting in above the high. And so the high price right there at 97.45. Stop loss, honestly, dealer's choice. But if you're position trading, you probably want to anchor about 94 right here. Give
Yeah.
it a little bit of room. You don't want to be kicked out just through some volatility to the 9 EMA, in my opinion. And so maybe use the 20 period moving average, kind of mid level right there, get in underneath that 94 level. I think the real story of Citibank and why this is, or Citigroup, and why this is my pick in round two, because there's a lot of stocks that I was looking at here. You can kind of see them over
Oh yeah.
here. Like there are some really good looking stocks. But when you're looking at Citigroup on, say, the 3-year weekly chart, you don't see what
You don't see
Coach
what you
Frank sees. You don't see what the real opportunity is. And by that, the weekly chart here looks fantastic as
looks
well.
great. Looks
But
great.
if you go out to longer time frame, this is a long-term recovery saga.
Yep.
And the earnings we saw earlier this quarter, the reason we loved it so much is it broke out of all of this noise. And everything else has just been secondary continuation type stuff. And now you're talking about that long-term story starting to get a little bit of heat, right? Starting to get a
Yeah.
little bit of that momentum. You come out to the monthly chart just to kind of look at it here. You tell me that monthly chart doesn't want to go find 150 eventually.
I mean that,
It
and that's
kind of feels like it wants to go find some price appreciation
I
here,
mean, that's
Frankie.
the beautiful thing. I mean, a lot of the other really nice and strong looking banks are similar on the dailies, but they're kind of towards all-time highs. Nothing wrong with that, by the
Yeah,
way. But
like
this
you
has
take
that
Goldman,
catch up.
you take
Yeah.
JP Morgan. Like I wouldn't scoff if somebody said JP Morgan. It's doing a very similar. It's dancing the significant whole number right around that $300 mark. You can anchor right at 300. You look at the weekly chart. This thing looks
Looks great.
sexy
Looks
on the
great.
weekly chart. This looks fantastic on the weekly chart. But on the monthly chart, on every other time frame, it's been really really good for a really 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 long time.
Yeah.
You look at Goldman Sachs, rinse and
You can see
repeat
the
the
same
JP
thing.
Morgan
Yep.
saga. You go to Citigroup, well, we got a little bit of a different story to be, a little bit of a different technical story to be told here. And so
Yep.
to me, I don't have a target the same way. On the TJ Maxx trade, I was like, nope, my target's 48. My target's 48. I can't, I'm not negotiating that one. My target's 48. I don't have a target here. Like it's a position trade where I assume price appreciation and price discovery. And so it's more about the stop loss management on a position trade than is that ultimate target. I
Yeah.
don't have a target on this. It's more about the entry. It's more about stop loss management. And let's see what Citigroup can do.
I mean, that's not fair, right? You know my thoughts on this situation.
I, I did know
You
you
explained them pretty
loved.
nicely. You did explain them pretty nicely. I love the scenario.
So
I love the
again, we
scenario.
force each other to pick in the round. Okay. So now that we've had that conversation, where would you go?
If I had to pick, I would pick C. I would lose a C and go with C. That monthly is just too special to my eyes, right? The daily, weekly, they check the boxes. That's how we're building it, right? But it's the monthly is why we're trading it, right? If
You're just
uh,
using the daily for pattern development.
Yeah, I mean, if I could only do one, like no offense, CC, I like you and I think you're a good trade, but if I could only do one, it's gonna be
Yeah, that's the
it's
thing.
gonna be
If
C.
and that's the question in this round, in every round, quite frankly. If you only had to do one, which we don't have to, but if you only had to do one, which one would you pick? Team, let's hear it. Let's see where your head's at. Mike, you say City. Vincent, yeah, City. Lynn, I think City's going to get the take on this one here,
I think
Frankie.
it's gonna get well, the monthly is too nice, right? If
It's
you could
got
take
a
away the
very
monthly,
compelling technical story.
if you could take away the monthly, it'd be a fair fight on CC, but you
I agree.
can't take that.
I agree. I agree. But I'll tell you, I do like the CC entry like quite a bit.
Oh,
That
I
50
mean, yeah,
weekly, that looks pretty good
it's a
too.
gigantic pocket there.
Well,
Uh,
Frankie,
well,
as
this was fun.
always, Trade
Yeah,
Masters.
this was a
I
good
love
time.
Trade Masters. Team, do you love Trade Masters? If you love Trade Masters, hit that like, leave a comment,
Leave
especially
a comment. Yeah,
when we're done talking here. Tell somebody else about it. If you get something out of Trade Masters every week, you get something out of the podcast every week. Tell somebody else about it. We do this live
tell a friend.
every week. And on our YouTube channel, I'm most likely going to start doing our Futures Open show we do
Okay.
on Sunday in YouTube, but I haven't made that final decision yet because I really like Discord and just hanging out
We
in
get
Discord
60
on that.
likes. He's going to think a little bit harder about doing the Futures Open on YouTube. We get 60 likes. So, just saying. But Maddie, as always, my friend, love sitting down, talking shop, talking stock with you and members of the team. As we get wrapping up here on the way out, again, if you're not a pro member, we'd love to have you give us a shot. I think you'll find that this is the
Guys,
best trading community out there.
real quick, Frankie, the link for the pro membership for a free trial, 15 days, is in the description below. Just hit it. It's a 15-day free trial, and that gets you access to the newsletter, the traders report, the coaches shows, the traders lounges, everything we do with our community, including next Tuesday. I'm going to be doing a 2 to 3 part series. I'm scheduling two, Frankie, but I
But
know
you're going to do 3. Yes, because
and
we
so
all
I
know
keep
you.
saying 2 to 3 because
Just
I'm like we all
just
know
say
what
3,
there.
bro. We all know you.
Yeah, it's most likely going to be 3. We all know that, but I'm saying 2 for right now, which will most likely be 3. Come join Tackle Trading, guys. It's a wonderful community of like-minded traders and investors all helping each other navigate the financial world together. You will not find a better community to call home than Tackle Trading. We put the education and the application together to help you navigate the financial world. No doubt about that. And with that said, I hope everybody has a blessed day. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night. And if you need anything from the team, email us at team@tackle or hit us up in Discord, and we'll see you in the next time. Next Trade Masters. Frankie, I'm loving Trade Masters, by the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking forward to doing it again. So we'll same time, same channel next week.
Awesome. Later, team.